Has anybody started wondering yet why there's not a champion on Team Jesus who's willing to face the thesis that Christ is Belial? I've already discovered that Belial equals 148 in isopsephy, which is exactly 1/10 of what Christ represents, 1480. And then Jesus, Isios, in the original classical Greek, equals 888. That may not seem interesting, but if you keep going, you will find out that Christological researchers who were hoping for the best possible outcome, a happy ending, have been researching how these values fall on the Pythagorean tetractys, which is the basis for all harmonic representation in the world, at least as far as the Pythagoreans were concerned. And this system existed in Western knowledge for at least 600 years before it started to peak around the time that Irenaeus talked about Marcus the magician using this system to come up with Jesus equaling 888 and other numbers of the sort in the original Greek isopsephy. Then there were researchers that came out in the 1800s discovering that reconciliation, as if it was an event like the Renaissance, a finished event, not a verb, but a noun, an accusative noun in the feminine form, reconciliation equals 444. And they knew that this was a significant piece of a puzzle that they were putting together over the last 2,000 years. And the same researchers, just a couple of hundred years ago, realized that Son of Man, Jesus' favorite way to refer to himself, over 80 times he does this, equals 2960, right? Now, these numbers may not seem important, but there's one common variable that each of these numbers has, and it's a monadic variable. It is the monad in a relationship with a decad, so a 10-to-1 relationship. And they just couldn't figure out what that 148 number was because they were hoping for a happy ending. They couldn't possibly fathom that the original spelling for the Prince of Demons in the New Testament for the first 300 years that the New Testament was out was Beliar, which was the only nominal lexical lemma that fit this 148 isopsephy value. And when you plug Belial into the equation, what you have is the finished Pythagorean tetractys, and each name represents a ratio of the triangulated numbers that happen on the first row of the tetractys, the second row, the third row, the fourth row. So on the first row is 1 unit, the second row is 2, the third row is 3, and the fourth row is 4. But when you add the units from level to level, you get 1, and then you add them all up on the second level and the first level, and you get 3, and then you add everything there to the third level, and you get 6, and then you add the first 3 levels to the fourth level, and you get the fourth triangular number of the Pythagorean basis for harmony, which is Christos, 1480. So if Belial is 148, and reconciliation is 444, and Jesus is 888, and Christos is 1480. What you have is the two-dimensional tetractys, a numerical progression that these early Christological numerologists were trying to put together in a puzzle, but they were missing the key component, which is known as the monad in Pythagoreanism. And the monad is important because it is the seed structure that all of these structures are dependent on, which means that the unfolding of Belial through reconciliation and into Jesus Christ is part of a harmonic progression on the Pythagorean tetractys known as the first 4 triangular numbers, built into the isopsephy only in Paul's doctrine and mostly isolated to the part of the corpus which is 2 Corinthians. And so what we see here is a early Gnostic, but the bad guy's Gnostic, use of numerology to invert what we think is the meaning of Christianity, when in fact it is a graffiti that is meant to be understood by the adept who created this satanic form of removing the soul from its seat and replacing it with a monadic, decadic relationship that is Belial and Christ.